Some men walk through life unnoticed, not because they're shy, quiet, or mysterious, but because their spark has gone out, and with it their attractiveness. No one can see them anymore. This is the mistake, brother. The mistake that makes you invisible to women is not your height, your bank account. It is the forgetting of your own presence. The slow, quiet surrender of your voice, your direction, your hunger. A man who no longer remembers that he was born to walk with a spine of iron and a heart of flame becomes a shadow. But in the eyes of women, and in truth in the eyes of the world, he is unseen. Why? Because women do not fall in love with shadows. They do not admire the man who has buried his essence under fear, people-pleasing, or endless hesitation. They are drawn instead to the man who dares to stand fully in himself, imperfect, yes, but unmistakably alive. When you let go of your own direction, when you silence your truth to avoid discomfort, when you bend your shoulders to carry a life you did not choose, you erase yourself. And an erased man is invisible. I have seen this in many men. They wonder why women pass them by, why conversations feel flat, why they feel like background characters in their own stories. It is not because they lack charm. It is because they have hidden their essence. And essence is what women, and indeed the whole world, are drawn to. There is a fire in you, even if you haven't felt it in years. It waits like an ember under ashes. The mistake is pretending it does not matter. The mistake is thinking safety will make you seen. But it does the opposite. To be safe all the time is to be invisible. To be alive is to risk being seen, being rejected, being challenged. That is the cost of presence. And it is also the source of attraction. Brother, let us walk together through this truth. Let us dig into the silence that has cloaked you, and let us strike the ember again until it glows. Because the world does not need more shadows. It needs men who carry themselves as if life burns in their chest. The mistake is invisibility. The solution is presence. And presence, once restored, cannot be ignored. Presence begins with remembering who you are, not who the world has asked you to be. Too many men mistake politeness for strength, compliance for kindness, quiet for wisdom. But brother, when you confuse shrinking with virtue, you become a ghost. A woman may smile at you. She may even enjoy your company for a time. But deep within her, she does not feel the current of life that stirs desire. Because she does not feel you standing in yourself. And if you cannot feel yourself, she cannot feel you either. This is not about arrogance. This is not about shouting to prove you exist. It is about the quiet gravity of a man who knows where he is going. A man whose words come from conviction, not from the desperate wish to be liked. Think of a river. A river does not ask permission to flow. It does not apologize for its direction. It moves with force, with clarity, with a rhythm born from the mountains and the rains. And everything around it is shaped by its path. You must become like this river, a man of movement, of decision, of momentum, not for the sake of impressing women, but because your soul demands it. For when you live this way, women notice, not because you try to be noticed, but because life itself radiates from you. The mistake that makes men invisible is this: living as if their life is an accident, as if they are passengers in someone else's car, nodding politely while the world drives them in circles. Women do not fall in love with passengers. They fall in love with men who hold the wheel of their own lives. So how do you fix this? You start by asking yourself, what do I want? Not what will keep me safe, not what will please others, not what will prevent conflict, but what do I truly want? It is astonishing how many men cannot answer this question. And that, brother, is the beginning of their invisibility. Practical step. Tonight, sit with a blank page and write the answer. Write it badly. Write it with confusion. Write it with rage if you must. But write until you find something real. For that moment of honesty is the first crack of light breaking through the shadow. Remember this: a man without direction is unseen. A man with direction becomes impossible to ignore. There is a story in the old myths of Greece. It tells of Odysseus, the long-suffering wanderer, the man of twists and turns. For years he was lost at sea, battered by storms, tempted by goddesses, delayed by monsters. Yet despite every setback, he never forgot his direction. Home. His men perished, his ship sank, his heart ached with exhaustion. But he held the image of Ithaca, the shores where his wife Penelope waited. It was this vision, this unyielding direction, that gave him presence even when stripped of power, wealth, and companions. Why do I bring up Odysseus? Because his story teaches what many men forget. Presence is not built by ease or applause. It is born in the man who endures storms without losing his compass. Women sense this. They can feel whether a man carries his own Ithaca inside him. When you speak, do your words come from a center, from a clear sense of where you are going? Or do you drift, tossed by every opinion, every demand, every small wind that blows against you? A man without a center becomes invisible, no matter how handsome his face or how heavy his wallet. A man with a center becomes unforgettable, even if he stands in a room with nothing but his name. The mistake of invisibility often begins when a man trades his inner compass for external approval. He says what he thinks she wants to hear. He hides his rough edges to seem agreeable. He waters down his fire to avoid conflict. And soon he no longer feels himself, and she no longer feels him either. Practical step. Begin reclaiming your center by choosing one thing you will not compromise on. One value, one principle, one truth. It could be as small as your morning routine or as large as your commitment to honesty. Stand by it. Defend it. Live it. This will begin to give your presence the density of stone instead of the thinness of smoke. Odysseus was not loved because he was perfect. He was loved because he was relentless. He carried his essence across oceans and through years of trials. Presence is not about smoothness. It is about staying lit, even in the dark. And that, brother, is when the world begins to notice. Another story, this time not from myth, but from history. Think of Winston Churchill in the darkest days of the Second World War. Britain stood alone against the Nazi tide. Cities burned. Bombs fell nightly. Fear thickened the air like smoke. Churchill was not a young man then. He was gruff, overweight, often mocked before he rose to power. But in that moment of national despair, he embodied presence. Not because he had an easy solution. He didn't. But because he spoke with a voice rooted in unshakable conviction. "We shall never surrender," he said. And his people believed him. Not because the words were clever, but because behind them was a man anchored in his essence. He carried the weight of his direction so fully that even in ruin, others saw light. Now imagine a different version of Churchill, a man who tried to soften his words so no one would be offended, a man who spoke vaguely, hoping to be liked by everyone. That man would have been invisible, and the world would have fallen into shadow. Brother, Presence is not measured by how loud you are. It is measured by how rooted you are. Churchill was not loved for charm or beauty. He was respected and even desired for his unbreakable essence. Women feel the same in their bones. They are not seeking men who agree with everything, who vanish into politeness, who never take a stand. They are seeking men who, when the storms of life arrive, can stand tall and say, "This is the way." The mistake of invisibility is believing that avoiding conflict will win affection. But in truth, nothing kills attraction faster than a man who cannot hold his ground. Practical step. Find the next moment when you are tempted to soften your truth to keep the peace. Stop. Speak what you truly mean. Say it calmly, without anger, but without apology. You will feel your spine straighten, your chest expand. That is presence awakening. Better to be disliked for your truth than invisible for your silence. Now we must look deeper into the wound itself. Why do men choose invisibility? Why does a man bury his own fire under layers of quiet compliance? The answer is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of standing tall and being cut down. This fear whispers that it is safer to dim your light than to risk showing it. But brother, hear me clearly. The fear does not protect you. It robs you. It robs you of love, of respect, of adventure. It builds a prison of safety, and inside that prison you slowly starve. Women can sense this fear immediately, not always in words, not even in conscious thought, but in the subtle signals of presence. The man who avoids risk, who speaks only in softened tones, who waits for permission to exist, she feels it. And what she feels is absence. Attraction is born from life force, from a man who stands in his strength even when uncertain, from a man who chooses movement over paralysis, honesty over silence, truth over comfort. Do not confuse this with recklessness. It is not about leaping blindly into danger. It is about refusing to let fear be the master of your life. Consider the oak tree. The oak tree. It does not shrink when the storm arrives. It does not try to disappear, hoping the wind will forget it. It stands rooted deep, allowing the storm to pass while it grows stronger through the trial. You must learn to be like this. Presence grows in the soil of courage. Every time you step forward despite fear, your presence deepens. Every time you choose silence out of fear, your presence fades. Practical step. Identify one place in your life where fear has silenced you. Maybe it is at work, with friends, or with a woman you admire. This week, take one small action to break that silence. Send the message. Speak the truth. Make the move. It will not be perfect, but it will be alive. And this is what matters. A man in motion is visible. A man in fear is invisible. Brother, the choice is yours. Presence also depends on embodiment. You cannot think your way into being visible. You must live it through your body, your voice, your movements. Watch how most invisible men walk. Shoulders slightly hunched, steps cautious, eyes darting away from contact. Their whole body apologizes for existing. And without speaking a word, they vanish. Now watch a man who has presence. He may not be the tallest in the room, nor the strongest, nor the most handsome, but his posture is alive. He walks as though the ground itself belongs to him. His gaze meets others not with arrogance, but with simple certainty. His movements are deliberate, unhurried, carrying weight. A woman notices this instantly. Before you even speak, your body tells her whether you are a man of presence or a man who has hidden himself. This does not mean puffing out your chest like a child pretending to be strong. It means inhabiting your body fully, breathing deeply into your belly, standing as though you deserve to take up space in the world. Because you do. Think of a lion. The lion does not need to roar constantly to remind the savannah who he is. Even in silence, his presence is felt through the weight of his body, the steadiness of his gaze, the relaxed power of his stride. You must become like this, relaxed, rooted, unshaken. Practical step. Each day, practice walking with deliberate slowness. Not dragging, not rushing. Let each step feel grounded, as if you are pressing roots into the earth. Lift your chest slightly. Allow your breath to deepen. When you speak, slow down by half. Let your words carry weight instead of rushing to escape you. Do this, and you will feel something shift. The world will begin to feel you again. Women will sense it too, not because you are performing, but because you are present in your own skin. Presence is not a costume you wear. It is the full inhabiting of your body, your breath, your being. Brother, invisibility ends the moment you step into yourself completely. Now let us turn to voice, the river that carries your presence into the world. Many men speak as though they are afraid their words will disturb the air. Their voices trail off, uncertain, apologetic. They hope softness will protect them, but it only hides them further. Women hear more than words. They hear whether your voice carries depth. A man who allows himself to be treated as an option, who tolerates disrespect, who bends to every whim, becomes invisible. No one, not women, not men, not the world, will notice a man who does not notice himself. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is a quiet, unshakable acknowledgement that you are worth the effort it takes to stand tall, speak clearly, and act decisively. It is the difference between a man who apologizes for existing and a man who inhabits his life fully. Look to historical figures like Theodore Roosevelt. He was often criticized, even ridiculed, for his vigor and his boldness. Yet he never compromised his principles to appease others. He did not seek universal approval. He sought to live with integrity, and in doing so, he commanded attention, respect, and even love. Women feel self-respect instinctively. They feel the energy of a man who will not settle for less than his worth. And they respond to it not because they are calculating, but because human energy responds to clarity and strength. Practical step. Set clear boundaries this week. Decide what you will and will not tolerate in your interactions with others. Communicate these boundaries calmly, without aggression, but without apology. Watch how your presence expands when you honor yourself. A man without self-respect drifts unseen. A man with self-respect shines, even in a crowded room. Brother, respect yourself first, and the world will follow. Another layer of invisibility lies in passivity, the failure to initiate, to lead, to create momentum. Many men sit and wait, hoping life or women will notice them. They hope opportunity will knock, that charm will be enough, that luck will lift them. But hope without action is invisible. The world does not reward quiet longing. It rewards movement, decisiveness, and initiative. Women, too, are drawn to men who create direction, who generate life rather than passively consume it. A man who waits to be chosen is already lost. A man who acts becomes inevitable. Think of Alexander the Great. He did not wait for empires to be offered to him. He seized them. He carved his presence into history not through passivity, but through relentless action. Even when faced with impossible odds, he moved forward, and the world could not ignore him. Practical step. This week, identify one area where you have been passive. Perhaps it is asking someone out. Perhaps it is starting a new project, or speaking up in a group, or claiming responsibility at work. Take deliberate action. Do not wait for permission or perfect timing. Initiate. Move. Lead. Brother, presence is created by momentum. Start moving today. There is yet another subtle trap: overthinking. Men who dwell endlessly in their heads, who analyze every word, every glance, every gesture, quietly dissolve into invisibility. They miss the rhythm of life because they are trapped in thought. They hesitate, stall, and vanish. Overthinking is the enemy of presence. It is the death of immediacy, the killer of desire. Women feel it immediately. A man who hesitates endlessly cannot be felt. He cannot stir attraction. Presence lives in clarity and decisiveness, not in endless speculation. It lives in a man who trusts himself enough to act, to speak, to choose, even if imperfectly. Mistakes do not erase presence. Indecision does. Practical step: choose one situation where you feel stuck in thought. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Decide, act, and accept the outcome without debate. This small discipline will teach your mind to trust your instincts and your body. It will begin to dissolve the cloak of invisibility. A man who thinks too much disappears. A man who acts with clarity is unforgettable. Brother, stop overthinking. Step into the flow of life. We come now to the heart of a lesson: integration. Presence is not built in fragments. It is not posture alone, or voice alone, or courage alone. It is the weaving together of all parts of yourself: mind, body, and spirit. The invisible man compartmentalizes. He hides his desires, his fears, his energy. He performs civility here, politeness there, caution everywhere. He splits himself into pieces, and no one sees the whole. The visible man, the man women notice, is whole. He carries his strength, his vulnerability, his purpose, his curiosity as one integrated force. He speaks, moves, and acts as a unified presence. He is not perfect, but he is complete. Look to the myth of Hercules. He faces 12 labors, each impossible, each demanding every facet of his being. He cannot succeed with half a heart or half a mind. He must summon every strength, every skill, every ounce of courage. And through that integration, he becomes larger than life. Practical step: begin noticing where you fragment yourself. Where do you hide your energy, your opinions, your desires? Choose one space: your conversations, your work, your interactions with women, and practice being fully present, fully yourself, without apology or concealment. Integration will begin to radiate, and your invisibility will dissolve. A man who is whole cannot be ignored. A man who is fragmented vanishes in the crowd. Brother, gather yourself. Be complete. Finally, we arrive at the last truth: consistency. Presence is not a single act, a single speech, or a single brave move. It is a pattern, a rhythm, a life lived with awareness and courage every day. The man who shines once but fades tomorrow is still invisible. The man who stumbles but rises again, day after day, hour after hour, begins to radiate inevitability. Women sense it. Life senses it. The universe senses it. Remember King David, who as a shepherd faced lions and bears before he faced Goliath. He did not become visible overnight. He trained, he acted, he carried himself through countless small battles. His presence was forged in the repetition of courage, in the discipline of living fully in each moment. Practical step. Commit to presence daily. Speak with clarity. Move with groundedness. Act decisively. Face fear. Embrace discomfort. Honor your purpose. And integrate your being. Every small act compounds. Presence is not built in grand gestures. It is built in consistency. And as you live this way, brother, something remarkable happens. Women begin to notice. Opportunities arrive. Life feels more vivid. And most importantly, you feel yourself. Let this be your final reflection. A man who lives fully, consistently, courageously, cannot be invisible. They feel whether it comes from your chest, your belly, or from a shallow throat. The invisible man speaks quickly, nervously, always checking the reaction of others. The present man speaks slowly, deliberately, and allows silence to rest between his sentences. Do you see the difference? One man throws pebbles into the water, hoping to make a splash. The other drops stones, and the ripples spread outward with force. Brother, your voice is not just sound. It is the echo of your presence. When you speak from a place of conviction, even the simplest words carry weight. You don't need clever lines. You need rootedness. Think again of Churchill. He did not win hearts with poetry. He won them with gravity. And that gravity came not from performance, but from the depth of his being. Practical step. Practice speaking from your body. Place your hand on your stomach as you speak, and feel the vibration of your words there. Slow down. Let silence be your ally. When you answer a question, resist the urge to rush. Give each word the dignity of being heard. This may feel strange at first, but over time, your voice will begin to carry the resonance of presence. And when you speak with presence, women listen, not just with their ears, but with their whole bodies. A man's words are not measured by their cleverness, but by the weight of his voice. Brother, speak not to impress. Speak to be felt. Presence, brother, is also born from purpose. A man without purpose drifts, and drifting men always fade into the background, no matter how hard they try to be seen. Ask yourself honestly, what is the great work of your life? Not just your job, not just the bills you pay, but the mission that burns beneath your skin. For when a man forgets this, he becomes weightless, like a feather blown in every direction. And women, though they may comfort him for a while, do not desire him deeply, because they cannot feel his core. A woman does not want to be your purpose. She wants to feel your purpose flowing through you, strong enough to carry her along its current. She wants to sense that you are a man engaged in the building of something larger than yourself, that your days are not wasted in passive comfort, but invested in a vision that demands your strength. Look to the blacksmith in the old village. He is covered in soot, his arms scarred from sparks, his hands rough with labor. But when he walks through the square, people notice. Why? Because he carries the weight of his craft. Every swing of the hammer has shaped not only iron, but also his own presence. You must find your forge, the place where your labor, your sweat, your devotion form you into a man impossible to ignore. It need not be glorious. It only needs to be true. Practical step. Each morning, before reaching for your phone, ask yourself, what is one action today that serves my deeper purpose? Not just survival, not just distraction, but purpose. Do that first. Let everything else wait. In time, you will notice that your presence grows heavier, denser, unshakable. Because presence is not a trick. It is the natural aura of a man devoted to his mission. A man with purpose shines like a torch in the night. A man without purpose is swallowed by the dark. Brother, let your purpose light the path. There is another subtle mistake that keeps men invisible: indecision. The man who wavers, who cannot commit to a path, who postpones action out of fear, fades into nothingness. He is like a tree caught in the wind, bending in every direction, never taking a firm stand. Indecision whispers that you should wait. Wait for the right moment. Wait for approval. Wait until you feel ready. But brother, the right moment rarely comes. Approval is fleeting. Readiness is an illusion. Action creates presence. Even imperfect action, even trembling action, signals life. Women are drawn not to men who sit on the sidelines, but to men who move, who take responsibility, who make choices. Think of the warrior Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. He stands on the battlefield, arrows ready, heart heavy with doubt. For a moment, he freezes. But it is action, decisive, aligned with duty, that awakens his courage and marks him as a man of presence. It is not perfection that matters, but the willingness to stand and act. Indecision, on the other hand, whispers of a man who has lost himself. And once a man loses himself, he is invisible. Practical step: identify one area of your life where you have stalled, where fear has kept you from deciding. Make a choice today, even if it is small. Speak to the woman you want to invite closer. Pick a project you have delayed. Commit to a routine you have avoided. Movement will awaken presence. Delay will bury it. A man who moves is seen. A man who hesitates fades. Brother, presence is forged in action, not in hesitation. Now we arrive at another layer of invisibility: the avoidance of discomfort. Men who shrink from challenge, who flee from tension, who seek only ease, vanish into the background of life. They hope comfort will make them attractive, but comfort only breeds mediocrity. A woman does not desire a man who avoids life's rough edges. She desires a man who can sit in the storm, feel the wind against his face, and still remain unshaken. She desires courage, not convenience. Strength, not softness that comes from fear. Consider the old tales of knights. They did not win the heart of the princess by lounging in castles or polishing their armor. They won it by venturing into forests thick with danger, by facing dragons and trials, by showing their courage in the face of fear. The trials did not make them invisible. They made them luminous. Comfort is a thief of presence. Every time you choose ease over challenge, you shrink. Every time you face discomfort with resolve, you grow. Practical step: identify one area where you are avoiding discomfort. It might be physical, exercise, health, posture. It might be emotional, speaking your truth, confronting a friend, expressing desire. This week, face it directly. The smallest acts of courage compound into a presence that cannot be ignored. A man who embraces discomfort carries life like a flame. A man who avoids it fades into shadow. Brother, the road to visibility passes through courage. Walk it. We now confront a truth that many men resist. Self-respect is magnetic. The mistake has been revealed. The path to presence is clear. The work is yours. Stand tall. Speak boldly. Move decisively. Lie fully. And watch as the world, and the women you desire, cannot help but see you.